Hello, my mimics, and welcome back to the Mimic Commentary, episode 140. This episode, we will be clearing out, the Bestial Sanctum region, while I answer a few of your questions. As of time of recording, this may be the last Mimic Commentary video I do before I move. The move is I won't be able to record while moving. So for members, there's going to be a gap in episodes. So this is essentially a thank you to the members by, doing Q&A. In the future, I'm thinking I might do more of these. So if you want your questions answered, become a member so you can catch up with the Mimic Commentary or see posts that I post for members asking for questions and answers. These questions I'm asking to just be I will only answer the questions based on Mimic Commentary rules, so, very little prophetic knowledge we're going to be using. Another quick update before we continue the episode and do all this stuff. I've been sharing some ideas of, short videos I wanted to do to advertise the Mimic Commentary, because that's where my passion is right now for making videos. Doing larger projects that need more writing, and... Sorry, wait, this bush, I just noticed all these... I thought they were worms. And I wrote something today that was like, oh my god, this is going to be so easy to edit. And it is currently, I just have to straighten out the ending a bit. Oh good, we can summon ashes. We're going to need Ugus. I just need to straighten out the ending a bit. I kind of rushed it. But it's less than 1,500 words, so it's less than a 10-minute video, which is phenomenal for me. So excited to do something that's short and it's going to have a lot of cool information in there. So the first comment comes from Donut Swordsman. They said, I think with the vast scope of the game... Oh wait, why is he disappearing? Oh, I guess I can only summon him for... we're only summoning him for the dragon on the bridge. Anyway, they said, oh goodness, how am I going to be able to do this? I'm getting distracted by silly things. They said, I think with the vast scope of the game, it will be unmanageable to try and keep it within certain boundaries. The connections are already becoming an insane web, and I'm afraid it'll start restricting the ability to fully cook. So this is a great question, or it's not really a question, a great comment, because it highlights what I think is so strong about the Mimic Commentary. Smithing Stone 9. Somber, too. Is the reason why we have these rules is for a multitude of reasons. One of them, it's to look at the game as if it is a story. So when we receive information is sometimes more important than what that information is. It's our ability to see how the story changes as we progress through the world and what is being revealed to us, what is being foreshadowed to us, and what is primarily the story they're trying to tell if you were to play the game in this way. There's no right or wrong way to play Elden Ring and to engage with its story. But when the game was created, at least when this type of storytelling was created, or not really created, but used within Demon Souls, I don't think, Miyazaki intended for there to be, a mass market of videos on YouTube that explain the story. People would go on forums. He may have assumed, or maybe not assumed, he didn't know, that it might have just been a personal experience that you would share and talk with friends, you'd see the messages. I don't think they expected this giant discussion to take place, especially even considering George R. R. Martin too, the way he writes his books. I've learned that thanks to Genuine Article and Discord moderator Sola Gandhi, also known as Justice Blade, has been recommending to me that I read Gene Wolfe, who is kind of a huge inspiration for George R. R. Martin and how he writes his stories with these great complexities and rereading them over and over again, etc., etc. And he was writing stories in the 1970s, before the internet, before people could widely share what they thought was going on in, a story with a complex web of politics and intrigue and things of that nature. So these things weren't created with it in mind that so many people would be able to just like continue to engage with it across the world to figure this stuff out collectively. So we already have a benefit in that way. I'm only one person, but I'm showing you a playthrough and just giving you my thoughts. And that's the second thing about the Mimic commentary, is that I'm not reading through items, I'm not writing a script, I'm just talking. I'm letting the thoughts come to me as they do. And I think this area is going to be much smaller than I thought it was. So I might just keep farming these guys over and over again. For a piddly amount of runes. Let's change this to the Gold Scarab. And I find that I do my best theorizing when I'm in the game, when I'm playing it, and when I'm just chit-chatting. Because I don't know what I'm going to say next. I just start talking and then something comes up. And, it allows me to cook better than you think. It allows me to cook way better than you think. And then just thinking about what's going to happen next really helps me. And it's such a fun experience doing this. So, I understand your concern. However, I think the magic of the Mimic commentary will shine through. Ekamita Yoga says, what is the significance of the rune of the unborn being in the amber egg? We see other great runes. Like a shape in light, but not in the rune of the unborn. Why is it different? I asked for clarification. I said, are you referring to why we don't see it similar to the great rune's benediction being restored to the blind tower, or to the divine tower? And he said, yes, the ones in the tower look so ethereal, and just the rune shape, but the runes of the unborn is of a physical object. So let's look at so I guess they're saying, what's the importance of it being in the amber egg? Mainly, I think, the importance of it being in the amber egg is showing how we can transfer great runes. That great runes can be stored into something and then moved. We already see that with the demigods, for example. Like, the demigods have a great rune, I have a great rune. I can store the great rune in my body, and right now, Godric's great rune was in Stormvale. But I took it, and now it's all the way in the Dragon Barrow. So I'm essentially the vessel for the great runes right now. We know Marika is the vessel for the Elden Ring. That's kind of what I meant to say. And she most likely can move around freely. Well, not anymore. I think she's imprisoned in the Erd Tree. But I think the importance of it being in the Amber Egg is to show that the great runes were moved from one place to another, particularly from the Elden Ring, from most likely the Erd Tree, and brought to Rennala. The symbolism of the egg is also important because, we were doing some theorizing of when did Radagon give her the egg? Why would he give her an egg? And we can think of it in, there's three possibilities. At the beginning of their marriage, during their marriage, or I guess four. The beginning of their marriage as a gift, at the end, or during their marriage, in the middle, at the end of their marriage, or after their marriage. We would have to determine when would Radagon come into possession of the Amber Egg and why. Right now, I'm leaning towards Radagon has the Amber Egg as a marriage gift that he brought, and I think we've done this theorizing earlier, that he brings the egg to Rennala as a wedding gift from Marika. She is the head of the Empire, and she's giving the queen an amber egg to say, I wish fertility upon you. I wish for you to have children. The idea of putting the egg in the cradle and the bassinets of her children to be as good luck really stands out to me. We will read this. Is that the same? has the Albert of theirs. The jump, it was Rancid. No, these are different. Okay, we'll read that. We'll read that in a bit. Question and answers time right now. We see one of the astroglaives here, giving firm connection between Farum and star worship stuff, or the scholars, you know, whatever the theorizing we were doing yesterday, or not yesterday, in the last episode about Lenny's Rise. So the significance there of it being in an egg as well shows this idea of motherhood. It being amber coming from a tree, but we also have the amber of the stars, so it could come from a star. There's a lot of possibilities there. But I really like the idea of, you know, if the demigods, like, how did Radon, we just recently learned, and this one kind of looks like blood to me, fire and blood. How did Radon get this great rune? You know, he became demigod stepchildren when Radagon married Marika, but he was born to Renala and Radagon, so how would he get the great rune? Well, if the great rune of the unborn was in the amber egg, well, then perhaps other great runes were in the amber egg as well. You know, the great runes that Radon had, and Rykard had, and perhaps Ronnie had, or I guess Radon had, and Rykard has, because we haven't taken it from him yet. And that would imply that Marika always wanted Renala's children to have great runes as part of a plan to, you know, have this war afterwards. And I think that's something that we can come to the conclusion of because of fate. You know, we know fate, prophecy, destiny is all, you know, in Elden Ring. So if you're trying to make a prophecy happen, you know, you got to do all the things to, you know, I guess make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And if we're putting it up to chance, and we'll see this very, very late in the playthrough, how we're going to say, you know, I'll be like, oh, I was right. When we think about if these were to come to chance, how would Marika's plan actually work? It needs to be definable. You know, we need to know what is going to happen, or at least she needs to know. Someone needs to know, especially if you can see the future. So I like the idea of the amber egg is important because it symbolizes birth and childhood and motherhood and things like that. And it's a way for Marika to get great runes from the Elden Ring to Renala, so then her children would be able to have the specific great runes. When we consider Radon was so big that he had to go to Celia to ride his horse, or because he couldn't ride his horse anymore, so he had to learn gravity magic and all of the things that happen because he learns gravity magic. Well, if this great rune, which makes your HP bar bigger, your FP bar bigger, your stamina bar bigger, then perhaps it was the great rune all along that made Radon so big. 4 golden seeds. You know, let's hold on to that golden seed because we'll read it later. We're gonna just this is some level farming. Okay, I got a path now. So we could see, like, if Marika's plan is to get everything as it's happening right now, as it should, then ensuring that Radon gets this great rune, which will make him giant, is part of that plan, and it's important. How do you get the great rune? You have to smuggle it to Renala. She probably doesn't even know about it, you know? Radagon probably doesn't even know about it. The question then becomes from there, and here's the magic of the Mimic commentary, because, you know, you ask me one question and I'll keep going. How would Radagon, would he know about the great runes? Would he know about the great runes? Well, we know that Renala doesn't do the grim art of reincarnation until later in their, you know, in her life, assumedly after Radagon leaves her. So her using the great rune of the unborn, may have only started because after Radagon goes to the capital, studies incantations, studies, becomes a Golden Order fundamentalist, and then learns about the Elden Ring in a way that he's like, he comes back to Renala and he says, like, you can use the egg for this purpose. You could, the gift I gave you during when we were first wed will allow you to try and bring back our daughter. Because that's how I read it. Ranni dies in the Night of Black Knives. She cast away her Empyrean flesh. We know that. And she lives in a doll. But we don't know if we don't know that Renala knows that. We don't know if Radagon knew that. We don't know if they know that Ranni's soul is in a doll. So to Renala, who follows fate in the stars and sees, her timeline, she could see fate in the stars until Radahn stops the stars. And then we release the stars, and then after we do that, that's for Ranni, so we can finish our quest line. Our prophetic powers, I know that Ranni has an ending, obviously. And Renala should also know that Ranni has an ending because of prophecy. So she would be devastated to figure out that, to find her child dead. Any mother would be, but for her especially, because she had been living her entire life, or as soon as she learned the prophecy, or as soon as she learned fate, she had been living under the assumption that her daughter was destined to do great things, and instead, she's dead. Then Radagon could come back after he learns about the Elden Ring, after he becomes a Golden Order fundamentalist, and he could say, all is not lost. This is what you have to do. If you do this, Ranni will come back. If you do this, Ranni will come back, and eventually she will, the prophecy will be fulfilled. And I can imagine Radagon saying that and that not being a lie, because who gets to use the Amber Egg the most? After we defeat Renala, we get the Great Rune of the Unborn, and we can use Larval Tears. We can be reborn again, and if we were struggling, we could change up our build, we could change up our stats, and ensure that we would beat the game. And if we choose Ranni's ending, then the prophecy would be fulfilled. So, that is the significance of the Rune of the Unborn being in an egg. All right, that was the first question. Let's try to answer another one. I have a lot, and you people write a lot. Matthew Lapine says, hey, you going to check out the secret golem on the cliffside by Lenny's Rise? And yes, we are. It's actually not by Lenny's Rise. It's by the Minor Erd Tree, and that's where we solve the Redmane painting. The Redmane painting is by the secret golem. So, yes, we will. Okay. Shikari93 says, the last episode you made a great point about Radagon representing the physical struggle and Marika representing the mental/spiritual. We know Radagon is first known as a champion and a warrior, but he fails twice in his wars against Liurnia. What's so cool about him is after failing, he explores the more magical, spiritual, and philosophical areas through his relationships with Renala and Marika to become a better version of himself, and even finds love with Renala and his children. My question is, where does Godfrey fit into all of this? As the ultimate warrior who literally runs out of obstacles / opponents to overcome, I think he experiences his own form of hollowing when he's banished. Would you say that Godfrey may represent endgame of maxing your physical abilities and ultimately how fruitless that endeavor is? Something tells me Godfrey never felt love the way Radagon did. Wow, what a great character analysis. That was phenomenal. So here's some prophetic power. We are actually going to see, the more we learn about Godfrey, we are going to see how Godfrey, in the theorizing, I parallel Radagon's experience to that of the player. Specifically, the player who wants to understand Elden Ring, like really wants to get it. Essentially me, like me and you, and if you're watching the Mimic commentary, you're a bit like Radagon because you want to know a deeper truth, a deeper meaning. You're looking into a piece of art to try and understand something. It's a bit more than just like, answering lore questions. You know, there's something else there. For me, that's how I see it. You know, I've gone through my own, Radigan path, and I've shared in the Discord recently in our Silver Tiers and support channel how analyzing a character like Radigan has helped me in my recovery because of how thinking about the world, how he thinks about the world, has allowed me to recontextualize things about my abuse and accept some things about it. For Godfrey, we're going to see how he parallels the player, specifically the type of player who, just min-maxes, the person who doesn't read item descriptions, who doesn't really, care too much about the lore and the story. Maybe they watch a YouTube video or two, but they're not really thinking about it. Like, they're mostly here for the gameplay. It's all about the gameplay. And that's where Godfrey kind of fits in, because if you just do the gameplay, well, then you're going to follow Grace, you're going to fight all the bosses, and then you're going to pick an ending. What ending are you going to pick? How is the prophecy going to be fulfilled for you? Are you going to replay the game over again? Are you going to do it again? So we're going to see, did Godfrey feel the same love that Radigan did? We're also going to see that, yes, Godfrey does feel love, but I don't think he expressed the depth of his love. Everyone has the capacity to love greatly, and I don't think Godfrey truly allowed himself to love as much as he could. And if he did, he wouldn't really be Godfrey. He wouldn't really be Godfrey. Okay, Oasis asked, we found a sacramental bud which contains fresh blood. Let's look at our sacramental blood. That is our crafting. So we can make preserving boluses with it. All right, sacramental bud. Do you think these... so what is it? And is believed to originate from a strain of bud that contains youthful sacramental blood. Okay, so it contains fresh blood, and it's believed to originate long ago from a strain of buds cultivated with a youthful sacramental blood. Do you think these buds could be followed in a similar fashion as the lilies? Now, when you say that, do you mean the way that I think that these represent influence of Miquella's followers and St. Trina's followers, and how St. Trina's followers may not actually be following a St. Trina, like St. Trina could be a moniker for someone else? Do you think the connection should be made with the rhyme crystal buds and the regular crystal buds? For example, should we assume the other buds also have a connection to blood? If so, could they indicate a presence or path of a specific person? Or would you say each type of bud is different and we'd have to have separate meanings? Okay, so yes, I do believe that each of these buds contain blood. So this is the believed to originate from a strain of buds cultivated with youthful sacramental blood. So these all look the same. They have the same white branch on the bottom, which automatically makes me think of the white birch branches and the Ulyssilian casts. The white branches allow you to use the chameleon spell in Dark Souls 3. These types of branches are found in Shifa River. So as I imagine it, the sacramental bud, the crystal bud is a crystallized sacramental bud. And the rhymed crystal bud is a frozen sacramental bud. They come from the same strain from long ago. Now, your question about does it indicate a presence or path of a specific person? I know what you're getting at with this, and I don't think so. We see this in the DLC. We see this in Shadow of the Erd Tree about, blood in plants indicating the path of a specific person. But I don't think all of the ones we find indicate that. When we were at the Church of the Plague, there was a ton of sacramental buds, and Millicent was missing an arm, and she was bleeding. So I do think those sacramental buds were from her blood. But I don't think that means all of them have come from a specific person bleeding in that spot. Reason why is because it's a strain of buds cultivated, or it originates long ago from a strain of buds cultivated with youthful sacramental blood. So there was an original plant that had this blood, and now we're getting more of them. I know the fresh blood, it's going to be complicated. It's going to be complicated. I'm going to say it's a yes and no. It does indicate the presence of someone, and it indicates the presence of a specific person. But that presence isn't like they were standing there bleeding, okay? I imagine it that the blood, very similar to arterial leaves, dark red leaves with thick swollen veins, a faint pulse can be felt in the vein. So that means there's blood coursing through this arterial leaf. We think about root resin. We think about a root resin secreted from the roots of the great tree. The great tree roots were once linked to those of the Erd tree, or so they say, and it's for this reason the catacombs are built around great tree roots. So how would I think that this blood is circulating through the lands between? Case like Kircha of Plague, this would be Millicent bleeding there. So her origins, and she was found in the swamp after Melania did the Scarlet Aeonia as a baby. At least that's what Gowry says. Youthful. Thought to be beloved by the Empyrean Mikola in his youth. We're going to have to get more evidence for this. But I think it's very possible that this... But it's just kind of weird because... Right now I'm thinking, well, is this the blood of Mikola? Is this Mikola's blood running through the veins of the earth? But that wouldn't make sense because... of what we can craft those with. Like, this one is the freezing pot, which used a rime crystal bud. Originates from the cold dark moon of Rani, Carian princess. Isn't she, who, is she older or younger than Mikola? Based on the timeline so far, I think she should be older than Mikola. What about the Cuckoo Glintstone? This needs crystal buds. Weren't the cuckoos making marionettes and puppets way before? Like, it's Knights of the Cuckoo. This is cuckoo sorcery. It's faux sorcery. Weren't they making this before Mikola? What else? Magic grease. This is from the craftsmen of the Academy. Shield grease with silver tear husks. So that answer, a little foreshadowing. You watch my Mikola video. How could that blood, if that blood is Mikola's, how did it get all these places? Especially if it's coming through the veins of the earth, and if they're all the same, how could they be there in places in times that they shouldn't be there yet? Huh? I would recommend looking into Bran in A Song of Ice and Fire and what's happening there. So, very good question. We will have those answers in the future. And it's one of my pieces of evidence for, a little piece of evidence for, I think, a little bit of time travel. All right. Okna. If we assume silver in Elden Ring is mercury, it fits the alchemical themes, quicksilver, etc. What does that make gold? So I'm not very familiar with the alchemical stuff. I need to read more on it, which I plan to. But if I know the alchemist wanted to create the Philosopher's Stone, but I know there is also the goal of turning lead into gold, turning things into gold. So gold seems to be, if silver is mercury and quicksilver, then wouldn't gold then be the final? Our goal is to make gold. Particularly, though, we have different types of gold. We have, the gold of runes, the grace of gold, all that. Torrent's ring is a delicate gold work ring. But then we also have, where do we have it? Mikola's lily, which is a delicate water lily of unalloyed gold. So I would think that, if we were thinking alchemically, The goal would be to make unalloyed gold, and that would be perfection. Like maybe unalloyed gold, that's the Philosopher's Stone, like perfect gold. I'm not too familiar with it, so I can't give you a full answer. And also, we need a bit more stuff about Mikola as well. Blade J7688 says, I should probably kill the deer so I can get some beast stuff. That was messed up. I just bonked it in the head with a rock. Is Elden Ring a dark fantasy retelling of Mario? Princess Peach is like Marika, both held hostage. The Tarnished is Mario. Luigi is mimicked here. What do you mean Luigi is mimicked here? What does that mean? Yoshi is Torrent. Both have mushrooms that give superpowers. Both focus on the stars and the sun. They have alternate evil versions with Wario and Waluigi, like possibly the Gek. I know this is not a lore-specific question, but something I noticed between the two games. You know, you saying this makes me think of the ending of Death Stranding, where Amelie is like, it's like Mario and Princess Peach.
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
You know, it really is just that trope of we're trying to save the princess in the castle, but the princess is held inside of a tree, and also maybe the princess is with us the entire time, disguised as somebody else, doesn't remember she's a princess, and gave us Yoshi at the very beginning of the game. So, I don't... yes, Elden Ring is actually just Mario, because nearly every video game is Mario. So, I think so. Yo Pharaohs 5040 said, what do you think is the ultimate goal of each of the three queens? We have Marika, Queen of the Erdtree, Renala, Queen of the Full Moon, and we have, we got the Glowmine Queen. Oh, no. So, here, I was doing the chest analogy before. And something we need to figure out is when did these women become queens? Were they queens because they were born into royalty? Like, were their mothers queens? Were their fathers kings? And the reason that is important is because, are they inheriting the title, or are they becoming queens of their own volition? In chess, if you move your pawn all the way to the other side of the board, they become a queen. So when we think about the chess analogy, and someone brought up, I'm sorry I don't remember the name, but they said that the chess analogy made a lot of sense to them, especially with the pieces moving on the board and stuff, and how like the fingers are moving the chess pieces. If we think about queen, the queen is the most powerful piece in chess. Well, each side starts with one queen, but if you get your pawn all the way to the other side of the board, the pawn becomes a queen. So we're on this chessboard right now. We're on the chessboard in the lands between, and we have the name of these three queens. Were any of those queens pawns before they became queens? And that would indicate, you know, something like their own fingers guiding them to, you know, moving their pawn across the chessboard so they can become a queen. And then the goal would be to understand, okay, what was the fingers controlling the pawn? What was their goal with turning a pawn into a queen? We've been talking about the eternal plot, high treason, to ward off the intervention of the greater will and its vassal fingers. If we think about that chess analogy again, could it be that either Marika, Renala, or the Glowmine Queen were pawns of the greater will and the fingers, and once they became queens, they started their own rebellions for, in this case, freedom? You know, these are characters within a story that have dynamic relationships and feelings and, you know, what have you. You know, they're supposed to be written and thought of as real people with real motivations, real dilemmas. You know, when we talk about Ronnie and Radigan and Renala, you know, I'm thinking about them as a real family and a real tragedy of losing a child and then having to separate. The family breaks up. So these aren't just pieces on a chessboard. They're supposed to be real people with real lives. If we think in our world, any anti-war song about how the powerful elites use and in countries use their poor as fodder to fight their battles and gain them resources, when the most precious thing in the world is is life, and ending a life is so tragic, and it's just tragic. It's tragedy that life will never return. So to fight for freedom in that case would probably be what I think their goals are. But they might not know that. We have to determine, do they actually know all that stuff? But that's kind of like where I'm leading towards. Like Renala's goals, they follow fate. The Carians follow fate and the stars. So her goals are whatever fate is. And she says, after we beat her illusion, she says, Ranni, my dear daughter, weave thy night into being. And Ranni is going on the dark path of the Empyrean to... I have to check what her things are. So, I think to do away with all that came before. Let me just double check what she says. Ranni says, I am the witch Ranni. I stole death long ago and search now for the dark path, that I might one day upend the whole of it and rid the world of all that came before. Okay, so Ranni is going to upend the whole of it and rid the world of all that came before. Renala says, Ranni, my dear daughter, weave thy night into being. And Ranni's night being woven into being is undoing all that came before. Ranni stole destined death from Malekith the Black Blade. And we learned from the Glowmine Queen stuff, the Godskin stuff, the apostles once served destined death which was stolen by Ranni, who stole it from Malekith. They were defeated by Malekith the Black Blade, and their source of their power was sealed away. And the Glowmine Queen, where's her sword? She was, where is it? Sacred sword of the Glowmine Queen, who controlled the Godskin's apostles before her defeat at the hands of Malekith. So it looks like, and now we know Radahn was as allied with the Godskins. They're allied with the Black Flame. Ranni's goal is to upend the whole... Renala's goal is for Ranni to weave her night into being. Ranni's goal is to upend the whole of it, whatever that means. She is upending the whole of it by stealing destined death from Malekith and doing the Night of Black Knives, which involves her death and involves her discarding her flesh, making a curse mark, and Godwyn also dies in the Night of Black Knives, and the golden lineage gets decimated. We did all that theorizing. How does she steal the rune of death from Malekith? Well, if she's working with this Glowmine Queen, if she's working with the Glowmine Queen, and the Glowmine Queen takes the apostles who are serving Destined Death that she controls, and maybe creates a distraction or a diversion, so Ranni can steal the rune of death, and then Scions of the Eternal City. That's what Roger calls the Black Knife Assassins, who actually committed the Night of Black Knives, Scions of the Eternal Cities. The Gleaming Blade used in the Night of Black Knives, those which gave the demigods their first taste of death. So we have Godskin's apostles who can kill gods. They got the god-slaying Black Flame. The Night of Black Knives has the Scions of the Eternal City who are trying to kill the demigods. We have Ranni who orchestrates the Night of Black Knives and steal Destined Death. It looks like, just from all that, it looks like whatever Ranni, and the last piece of that is the eternal plot, ward off intervention of the greater will in its vassal fingers. I think ultimately, whether they know it or not, our three queens, Marika, the Glowmine Queen, and Renala, their goal is ultimately to ward off the greater will in its vassal fingers. They do not want to be pawns anymore. They don't want to be used by fingers. Okay? So that's what I think the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal of the 3 queens is the same. The same. Because we don't know where those queens came from. If they were all pawns that became queens, then I think that would really help in our reading. And I wonder if we will find any information in the future that will confirm whether or not these were pawns, whether or not they were queens already or not. Ronnie calls Renala the last queen of Karya, and for a long time, in my original theorizing, I suggested that she was not the first queen, but there was a long line of queens. And now I just matured that into what I really was trying to say was that there is a long lineage of maternal culture that's passed down from Renala. Her mother doesn't have to be a queen, but we'll get an item that will kind of confirm some of this theorizing. Okay. Miffin says, and this is about these stuff here. Miffin says, these stone sacrifices remind me of Erdtree burial, but instead of returning to the roots, they return to stone. Also, the black stones around the ruins have gold veins, like Glintstone and Lenny's Rise. Is that these black stone? Okay, so I didn't understand what they were saying. I think it was these stones. Let's look here. So they clarified, does the use of black stone instead of regular stone with gold, like the Ruins Greatsword, imply that there were Beastman opposition factions, like Onyx Lords against Alabaster Lords? I don't... You know what? I think that's a really good question. I didn't ever considered that, but I've been considering that oppositional beast factions because of the Spelldrake talismans, the difference between Dragon Crest and Spelldrake, that there might have been a Drake faction of the Beastmen and then an Ancient Dragon faction of the Beastmen. These beasts don't look the same as the Beastmen of Farum Azula. They don't look the same as the Beastmen of Farum Azula. They kind of have a similar build to Garank. Very similar build to Karank. But we don't know what Garank looks like underneath his clothes. So if there was 2 factions, I would say that the Beast Clergyman, we have that in the Cincadea. Where is it? Oh, it's all the way at the top. Silly me. Short sword given to high-ranking clergymen of Farum Azula raises potency of Beastman incantations. The design celebrates a beast's 5 fingers, symbolic of the intelligence once granted upon their kind. I would say that if there's 2 oppositional factions, that the Beastmen that we found in the caves and in farms with the Drake talismans are in a different faction than the Beastmen like Garank. I think we could say that. And what's interesting about the Cincadea is look at how it is, it's kind of gold. Here, I'll show you. And let's get our... So here's our Nox Flowing Sword. Look at the ripples on the blade. Look at the ripples on the blade there. And then look at the ripples on the Cincadea. So the Cincadea, it's not flowing like the Nox Flowing Sword, but it has like a similar type of pattern. So I think I like the idea that this is similar to Erdtree Burial, except it's stone burial. So, and we know that the ancient dragons who ruled in the prehistoric era were walls of living rock. So yeah, I really like that idea, and I really like the idea of 2 oppositional factions of beasts, and that's something we'll look for. Thank you for asking that question. Okay, Euron Greyjoy says, the name Lenny has a few interesting meanings that could correspond with what we see at the tower. There apparently is a river in Germany which carries the name, bringing in mind the blue dancer culture and the primeval current, but also Lion Strong and Brave Lion. Oh goodness. Are we seeing some Radahn Mikula Fate stuff here? Ooh, I think so. I think so. I mean, the Blade of Mikula fights Radahn in the last battle of the Shattering. That seems like a very fated event, and because of that, because Radahn is rotted, he can't unlock the fate in the stars. He's holding on to them. So we, Torrent Chosen Tarnished, Torrent, who we summon with the... Oh, goodness, where is it? We summon Torrent with the delicate goldwork ring, a delicate goldwork ring. So far, the only thing else that is delicate in our inventory is Miquella's lily, a delicate water lily of unalloyed gold. We know when we gave Gowry the needle, he said, oh, you know what he said? He said this was the work of a true craftsman. This was the work of a true artisan, a meticulous, bold craftsman who grasped the essence of life. And the unalloyed gold needle is obvious. It's got to be Miquella's needle. He had to make the needle. Did Miquella make the goldwork ring? It's delicate like his water lilies. And if that means Miquella made the ring to summon Torrent, does that mean Ronnie gives us the spirit calling bell from Torrent's former master? Torrent's former master could be Melina. But then why? Well, she's an amnesiac, so the reason why Ronnie may have given us the bell is because if Melina gave Ronnie the bell before she lost her memories and said, you have to give this to Torrent, or if Miquella is working with Ronnie and he says to her, you have to give Torrent's, Torrent's new master the bell when you start seeing the tarnish rolling around. It could be. You know, that I'm seeing fate stuff. Yes. Fate. Sorry. Are we seeing Radahn, Miquella, fate stuff? Yes. Definitely. And we're seeing Miquella, you know, we got the bewitching branches at the start. Miquella's really doing a lot of stuff here. You know, what is his plan? We don't know yet. We don't know. Is it tied to our three queens? We don't know yet. How could we know? How could we know? Okay. They also said, the unique crystals in the tower look like glintstone or gravity stone in the process of becoming smithing stone to my eye. Or perhaps the other way around. Yeah, that sounds... I don't have an answer for that, but yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, when we get to... You know what? That question will be answered when we get to the sealed tunnel in Altus Plateau. That question will be answered when we get to the sealed tunnel. We got another one. Euron Greyjoy asked a lot of questions. Does Radagon's Scar Seal indicate his physical presence in the fort or the region? It could have, but it doesn't have to. You know, because you can give the seal to someone and then they can move with it, so it doesn't have to. The question could extend to St. Trina and Miquella. I don't know. So they specifically, the lilies specifically, a symbol of faith in St. Trina, a flower signifying faith in the Halig tree. The lilies do not have to indicate their presence, just the presence of their followers. Okay. Who visited Caelid that we aren't explicitly told about? Could the Leonine and Crucible Knight indicate Godfrey and Radagon took the castle at some time during early conquest of the Erd Tree? Maybe getting too into Prophet's blindfold, but a general tallying of our characters and what they think they've done. Oh, I didn't hit read more on that. I'm sorry. All right, that question's going to get cut short. The answer is yes, it could, but I think, you know, since we have other ways to determine if characters went through these regions, the Leonine Misbegotten, the Crucible Knight, I think is more indicative of Radahn as a character and his influences and how Godfrey and Radagon influenced him rather than just their presence. But that isn't to say they weren't there, which I will say, yes, I do think they were in Caelid, but right now, with the lore and the information we have, I can't say how Radagon is in Caelid. We need more information on that. For Godfrey, though, we have his campaign's end right here with the Stone Sword Monument, but we also find dead Sunrealm soldiers, so the Sunrealm soldiers have to be fighting somebody, and they were most likely fighting the Erd Tree Empire because they're Sunrealm. They're like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute, you tree people, you were just supposed to stay in your lane, stay up by the tree, stop coming and taking all of our territory, we want to worship the sun, and yeah, we could see how that problem would arise. I'd also like to ask about the flaming strike memory that we find behind Remain Castle. We could have attacked someone with fire behind the castle there. Who could have attacked someone with fire behind the castle there? Does our Bat Lady tied to Mikkola's Lily indicate the presence of either Mikkola or another character like Marika? Also, 8 smoldering butterflies. Oh, I didn't know there was 8 smoldering butterflies there. Flaming Strike, Ash of War. Who would have died back there? Well, with the Mikkola's Lily, it makes me think of Melania's army. We know Melania's army was in Caelid, and there are Mikkola followers there. Where's our Ash of War? Oh, it's right here. It was Flaming Strike. So I think the most likely reason is who could they be fighting? Will they be fighting someone in Melania's army? Okay. I'm sorry I didn't get the other 2 questions a lot, but your first question really got my mind jogging. Okay, Flodusu gave us 7. Holy moly. Why is Ensha tied to the Sun Realm? Oh, Ensha tied to the Sun Realm. He's tied to the Sun Realm. I was like, why is he? I was like, yeah, why is he tied to the Sun Realm? Here, I'll show you why he's tied to the Sun Realm. Let's put on his armor. Let's dress up like Ensha. Okay, so this is Ensha's build. What does he look like? Okay, the reason why Ensha's tied to the Sun Realm is because look at him. Oh no. Sorry, boys. He looks like those who live in death. He looks like those who live in death. The ability on his armor, we need another item to tie him more closely to the Sun Realm. The Soulless King, that's going to be more for tying the Sun Realm. Okay, think about who is soulless. We need a little bit more to that. Actually, do we have... Is in Deathroot? No, not yet. Also in this area, we found the Ash of War for Clinging Bones. That is right here. This is a major Sunrealm area. I mean, look, this is Sunrealm Castle. This is Sunrealm Castle. This is Sunrealm Castle. This is frickin' Farm Azula. Here's the Farm Great Bridge. He casts gravity magic from the Meteor Stone. What is this item called? The Meteorite Staff. We know that Farm Azula was destroyed by a falling star, destroyed by a meteorite. We find it in the Street of the Sage's Ruins. So Ensha is tied implicitly to Caelid. Caelid is a major Sunrealm area. We got so many of these castles in close proximity to each other, and we have Farm Azula, and he looks like one of these guys. But there's going to be more and more that ties Ensha to the Sunrealm when we get more information. Also, the butt tree. That one, too. That is also Sunrealm. But we won't get that till like the end of the Mimic commentary, but it's just like the cherry on top. Who would build the high road and when? Oh, okay. Well, that one's easy. Let me show you. 2 high roads and their journey here. So this is one high road. This unifies the Erd Tree. It unifies the Church of the Cuckoo and the Academy and the tree, part of the Empire. This is the second high road. This goes all the way through. It comes all the way through Stormvale. It goes all the way down to Castle Morn. Then it changes. It actually breaks twice. Goes to Fort Height. Goes all the way through here, through Caelid. It kind of decays a bit. And then it reaches the Farm Great Bridge. So who would build it? Let's go and look at some of the stones. So who would build the high road? Obviously, an Elden Ring worshipping culture. And in the last episode, we got, or last episode or 2 episodes ago, we got Golden Rune 12, and the Warming Stone. So the Warming Stone is Erd Tree was once as warm as the gentle sun. So this is a Sun Realm associated item, showing also 2 fingers influence within the Sun Realm, most likely. The Grace of Gold, bless those who are first to serve it with the most vivid coloration. Now, originally when I was talking about this, I was saying, oh, first serve the Erd Tree, but that's not what it says. It just says those who first serve the Grace of Gold. So that could just be the Elden Ring and not the Erd Tree. And what is the Grace? What has the most gold? The Grace of Gold. It is said the Erd Tree was once as warm as the gentle sun and would gradually heal all who bathe in its rays. This is from the ruin fragment, so you have to bless a ruin fragment, which comes from Farum Azula. So this would be Sunrealm. Sunrealm created this. Okay. That one, I think. And when would they build it? They would have to build it when the Empire is unified. Can you explain again the whole flask, tree, sap, tears complex? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, that one is... We'll get to it again in the future. I don't understand what you mean. So tears drip from the tree. And do I have any sacred... if we had... Oh, it's the Blessed Dew Talisman. That's really all we need. It's more complicated than just sap. Because it's flask, tree, sap, dew, tears. So we have... This would need its own deep dive. I'm not going to be able to explain it, especially if we've been going for an hour. I'm going to skip that one. That one... This is one we're going to keep developing. Especially when it comes to tears. Is Gostok related to Godric in the... in an older version of the game, Gostok was actually Godric's son. Not anymore, though. It's not implied. Kenneth Height. Why can he appoint a ruler over Grimgrave? On whose authority? Well, his name is Kenneth Height Limgrave Heir. Godric doesn't rule Limgrave because he has the right to it, I don't think. He's just here. He, you know... like, you say, like, oh, you know, Godfrey... Here, we can come here. Let's go here. It gets a little complicated, especially with the end of the, Hey, speaking of the guy. It gets a little complicated, because of who eventually becomes the heir to Limgrave. So, we come here. We have a statue of Godfrey. Godric's like, you know, I'm the last heir. I'm the true last heir of Godfrey. I should rule Limgrave. Well, this statue is put in front of a relief of Sarash. Sarash is a lion, not a man. Is he called the... Sarash is the aged counselor. What else do we have of Sarash? I don't think we have enough of Sarash yet, just that Radahn's armor is based off of him. The golden lion symbolizes Godfrey, and his beast regent Sarash. We don't know much about Sarash yet, but we know that's Sarash right there, based on the images we've seen, just by what we know. But Sarash seems to be older than Godfrey. The statues are separate. You can see his hands are behind there. You can see both of his hands. But this place, he's a lion. And this place... We got some of our maidens. I think I have to go out front. I gotta go to the front of Stormvale. This place also has a tree relief, and it has the hawk. It has hawks everywhere. We know that the Storm King used to rule this place, so it looks like the Storm King was beaten by... Actually, let's go to Castle Morn. So we come to Castle Morn, and it has the tree relief on there again. But it also has all of their armaments, which have hawks everywhere. So, who owns Limgrave is a very complex question, but we know that Kenneth Height is apparently an heir, and he says he's the heir of the True Order. And when we attacked him, he cast, actually... This is why I set this up. Kenneth Height will cast Order's Blade when we fight him. So he is a Golden Order fundamentalist, which is very interesting. He will also cast a spell that we don't have yet, but that has this sigil on it. So he's also an Erd Tree worshiper. He's a Golden Order fundamentalist and an Erd Tree worshiper. But it's possible that his lineage is older than the Erd Tree Empire, you know? That's kind of what I'm seeing. So why can he appoint someone? Well, because his lineage is probably older than Godfrey taking over. Why do you think the Fingers expect as much of us as young Gideon? Why do you think he stopped before the capital? Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. What does he say? Go to the capital. Let's go talk to Gideon. Whew. Fodusu, you gave me a lot of stuff. All right, let's see what Gideon says.
Journey to the capital, Leyndell, to the east of the Altus Plateau, at the foot of the Erd Tree. The Two Fingers will deny your passage no longer. You may be our best hope. Find your way to the Elden Ring.
So why did he stop? I'm going to table this. We're going to have to talk more about Gideon later. I need a little bit more information on Gideon before we can really talk about it. I want to get to the capital before we come back to that question. Last one, Trina Mickle's lilies. Where are they suspiciously missing? Which locations where they've been found that are special importance so far? Oh, goodness. I mean, the biggest one, the biggest is it's really just like all over the place. Only Trina lilies in Limgrave and Weeping Peninsula. Then just a little bit at the Forsaken Ruins, and then only Miquella's lilies all over the place, except on the Melania's Knights, the Cleanrot Knights drop Trina lilies. Then the big one too, another big one is I really like the ones in I never marked them. This is the Mausoleum compound. It is right wait. I gotta mark these. I like the set in the Mausoleum compound. We got, I think, one. It wasn't one right here. Good question to remind me. Okay, so we had Miquella's lilies right here that I really liked. That is here. Then there was a bunch of Trina lilies right here. And then there was Miquella's lily, one more Miquella lily over here. At the foot of this statue. But the big one, and Miquella's lily, but the big ones, Miquella's lily all over Caria Manor, but one Trina lily at Ronnie's Rise. That is the biggest one. That is the most important lily in the entire game. The Trina lily underneath Ronnie. Miquella's lily all over all over Caria Manor, and then one Trina's lily. These ones were good too. Those were the 3 Trina's lilies. There's not actually a Miquella's lily there. I gotta remark them. I gotta check them again. There was also a Trina's lily right. I think it was Trina's lily right here. Okay. Yeah. Suspiciously missing, that's difficult. Like it's hard to say where they're missing because where they are. Oh, this one too. This Miquella's lily. I can't say where they're missing, but where they're found is like that's special. Okay, and we have one more question and then a comment. Brayart asked, we already speculated that since the Kayla Divine Tower is in Caelid and the Redmane Knights are exploring it, the Goldmine Queen is supposed to be aligned with the Redmanes. Is it possible that the Redmanes were instead trying to usurp the flame to perhaps cure Radahn of the Scarlet Rot? So that is a possibility, but we'd have to theorize how would we determine if Radahn is going to try to double cross the Godskins. Because, it looks like it was the unalloyed gold needle that they wanted to cure Radahn with, not Black Flame. So is it possible? Yes, it's possible, but I don't think it's likely, especially when we find the other Godskins. I guess I'm using prophetic knowledge here. I'm using prophetic knowledge that, when we find other Godskins, we're like, oh yeah, it's that one's going to get, that theory is, I think, going to get kiboshed pretty quickly. We would have to determine how is Radahn's soldiers, what type of subterfuge are they doing against the Godskins? I'm not saying it's not possible, but just off the top of my head, I don't think the evidence will point to that, but I'm going to keep it in mind. I'm not going to say that it's not possible. The next one. From the Blue Dancer's charm, we know about the fairy in blue who in legend bestowed a flowing sword upon a blind swordsman. Blade in hand, the swordsman sealed away an ancient god, a god that was Rot itself. Well, the Rot doesn't seem to be sealed right now. We can't yet infer for sure when it did attack. We can surely speculate Melania did something bring it back. Actually, we know how it came back. It's from... It was sealed, but then we have the... Where's the... Goodness gracious, where is this? Where's the... Give me a second. There it is. Though she never knew relief from the accursed rot she was born into. She was born into it. So it was sealed, and then she was born into it. It still could... That could still be considered sealed. It's sealed within her. The swordman seal... Remember, this is a legend of the Dancer in Blue. And we get this talisman. If you gotta remember the Millicent episode when we got this talisman. A talisman engraved with a scene of heroic tale. Though born into the accursed rot, when the young girl encountered her mentor with his flowing blade, she gained wings of unparalleled strength. When we look at these three talismans, Prothesis Wearer Talisman, the Blue Dancer Charm, and the Winged Sword Insignia, we can theorize, and I did this theorizing a few episodes ago, 20 episodes ago, I guess, that this legend could be a prophecy. This could be talking about Melania. And the sealed ancient god inside of her is the god she was born into. The only thing we're missing is we don't know if Melania is blind. If only we knew if Melania was blind. If Melania is blind, then I think we could confirm that the Dancer in Blue, this legend, was actually a prophecy. Especially when we consider, again, that when we look at the... Melania has wings of unparalleled strength. According to myth, these butterflies were once the wings of the goddess of rot herself. Okay? Myth. It's a myth. Myths and legends. Myths and legends don't have to mean that the thing actually happened in the past, especially when we have prophecy. Someone could have received a prophetic vision, and they could have said, oh, this happened in the distant past. This is why the world is the way it is. Or it could be a vision of the future of what was to come. So, yes. They finish off with... So, the rot was once sealed, and now it's there. Radon and his Red Mage Knights stave it off with fire. What if they're trying to kill the god of rot using black flame? Does that mean they could not be aligned with the Glowmite Queen, but it said they're only seeking a tool? Yeah, that too. But that's still an alliance. Like... their goals might not be aligned, but they're still in alliance. So, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You have a weapon I need to use, and so we're going to have to work together. So, very good question, though. Very good question. And finally, the last question and comment before I move in to my house, and the Mimic Commentary continues from a dedicated office where I hope the workspace will allow me to create better content and continue. The Mimic Commentary is going to change as my life changes. This one comes from White Worm Mimic. They say, and you know what, to answer this question from White Worm Mimic, let's put on our Mimic's veil. These videos have been amazing to watch and think over. I truly believe you have cracked the Rosetta Stone on all these games. You have enriched my experience, and I can't believe no one else seems to be doing what you're doing. There are great lore videos out there. The Mimic Commentary has been the most rewarding to experience. Every episode is a banger. You are articulate in your theorizing, providing time and time again your thought process. Where all these ideas are coming from leaving no stone unturned. My question is more of a comment or request, but I think it would be amazing to see you collab with David Lightbringer or Preston Jacobs. They have such blind spots to Elden Ring, almost willful ignorance. I don't understand why they don't bring more Elden Ring into it. It seems like George has put all the answers into this game, and it would be amazing to see more of an in-depth exploration of George's ideas with someone who has actually read his works and played the game. I love both Preston's works and David's, but there's a glass ceiling that I think you can help shatter. With the Hedge Knight coming out and an Elden Ring movie in the works, I think both channels would benefit from your input. Any channel, actually, for that matter. These things should be more in line, and I don't see many people bringing them together. Well, hopefully when I move, I will, try my hand at making Elden Ring solves A Song of Ice and Fire type videos. I've just been caught up with writing so much about Elden Ring as trauma and healing work, and not so much as fun, let's solve A Song of Ice and Fire stuff. And this is an ask for you all, if you want me to communicate with these people, try and reach out to them for say if you're in the comments of their videos, or if you have social media and you say, hey, you got to speak to Jack as a Mimic about Elden Ring. I watch his videos, and The things that he connects to Song of Ice and Fire are crazy. The things he connects to Thousand Worlds are crazy within Elden Ring. You know, I've tried to comment in their videos, but I get ignored. So if it comes from you all, maybe it'll happen. I got a business email on my channel. I would love nothing more than to be able to talk to people about a Song of Ice who are Song of Ice and Fire fans about Elden Ring, so they could see how much of the magic is not just in Elden Ring, but also in the work that George and Miyazaki have done separately. And I also want to thank you for your very kind comment, and I want to thank everyone who watches the Mimic Commentary, every one of you who is a paid member, every one of you who is joined with me on this journey. It's such a rewarding and magical experience. You know, right now, as a recording, this channel has over 200 members who pay and watch, pay for early access to the Mimic Commentary. And that 200, each one of you is more valuable than the tens of thousands or millions of views that another channel could have. Because, it tells me that the things that I'm saying have value, that my words are what has value. It's not the thing on the screen that you're seeing that you come here for, but it's what I have to say. And it really, all I've ever wanted for my life was to, be heard. I felt so ignored and so forgotten. And now, sometimes when I feel those ways again, I have to remember that not only do I have so many people in my life who care about me, but I have so many strangers around the world who do too. And, I hope that some good can come to your lives just from listening to me talk for hours upon hours upon hours on end. Part of the Mimic Commentary is maybe as I heal a bit, maybe you can mimic that process and you will heal too. All right, everybody, you know the drill. Let's do the thing.